Hello and welcome. Welcome to Freedom Frontline. Hope you guys are having a good day. Here on the beautiful Gulf Coast, we got a lot of rain. It started thundering and lightning. We were sitting at lunch, my wife and I with my daughter. Today is her 13th birthday. London, she turned 13 years old. And so as I do with my children on all of their birthdays, I go and check them out of school and take them to lunch. And they get to pick, and then we go pick out their birthday present. And so my wife went and checked out London, and so I met them. We went to Hibachi. She wanted to go to Hibachi, and so we had a good meal. Now I have 4 teenagers in the Carr household. I have a 17-year-old son, a 15-year-old son, 14-year-old, 13-year-old daughter, and then of course Scarlett, she's 8. But it's exciting here in the Carr household. London, for her birthday, she wanted a Caitlin Clark jersey, and then she wanted an Indiana Fever hat. And so we went to the store. They didn't have any, and so we had to order it online. I'm not sure why you have a hat store with NBA, WNBA, NFL, Major League Baseball hats, and you don't have an Indiana Fever. I mean, Caitlin Clark is by far the most important player the WNBA has had in the last, I guess you could say, ever since the WNBA was founded, and you don't have her hat? You don't have her jersey? I mean, are you kidding me? That is just ridiculous. And the way that, let me just stop right here and just say this. You know, the way, and I want to stop, before I go any further, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please go and do so. And I would appreciate it very much. It helps us, continue to build, what it is that we are trying to build. And so if you haven't already subscribed, please go and do so. But listen, if I'm a store and if I'm selling hats or if I'm selling jerseys, I'm going to have Indiana Fever and I'm going to have Caitlin Clark. Listen, I know that the young lady that plays for Chicago, Angel Reese, I'm not saying that she's not a good player. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that she's not. She obviously did great at LSU, and she's in the WNBA. I'm not going to say she's not a great player. I would imagine that every single player in the WNBA is at the top of their profession. I mean, I'm sure that all of them are good. I'm not going to dispute that. But we all know that the WNBA is not making any money. We all know that. I mean, that's not anything that we could even, debate. I mean, it's the numbers are there. But Caitlin Clark comes in and she starts filling up arenas. People are paying attention to the WNBA, and it's like the WNBA doesn't like it. It's like they're trying to, I don't know, excuse me, I don't know what they're trying to do. But I guarantee this, I'm going to say this, and some of you might not like it, but that'll be fine. If she was a lesbian, she would be one of the top, everybody would love her. But because she's not a lesbian, everyone's going to continue to shoot at her. If she was a lesbian, if she was black, I mean, a lot of the people in the WNBA, a lot of the black basketball players in the WNBA would accept her. And I know that a lot have, but I'm talking about, some of the main players. They don't want to accept her because she's a white girl and she is not a lesbian. And so they want to continue attacking and doing all that they can to destroy the person that has made the WNBA relevant. I mean, they're still not making money, but at least they're now relevant. And so I said all that to say, there's no way that I'm going to have a sports team jersey or a hat and not have Caitlin Clark and Indiana Fever. It's ridiculous. You're talking about a businessman, that, and the gentleman that was in the store, it's not his fault. He told me, he was like, they don't send me what I asked for. I'm like, so whoever your boss is, whoever that is, needs to be, needs a lesson whenever it comes to business, because I would want to have Caitlin Clark hats and jerseys and all of those things and to promote. But anyway, we're going to order it online, and London, she's fine. And so I took her back to school, and of course we're going to have a party for her tonight at the house. We're actually going to go to Rebel Dip for dinner, and then she wants a hamburger, and then Saturday we're going to have a big party here at the house for her. But as you look at the direction of this nation, the reason why I fight and I push as hard as I do is because, number one, I'm a pastor of a church, and I work with the next generation. I've been working with, you could say, the next generation for, 20 plus years. If we don't continue to stand and fight for what we believe in, what are we going to hand to the next generation? While we were sitting at, excuse me, I've been having a cold and sinuses have been acting up, so I apologize, especially my voice. I know it sounds probably just a little different, and I apologize. While we were sitting at lunch, there was a gentleman sitting to my right, and he brought up the fact that he said he obviously hasn't kept up with the trillions. But he was like, I don't know how the conversation even got there, but I didn't start the conversation. I'm there with London and my wife. We're enjoying talking with London. He brings up some government stuff, and he says, yeah, this country is $18 trillion in debt. I was like, hold on, we're north of $30 trillion in debt. And so you're off. You're about half off. If we don't continue to push back against the national debt, then what are we going to leave to our children? When you look at the moral decay, the moral decay of this nation, when you look at many in our elected offices and the perversion, that is happening among many of our elected officials, the alcohol and the drunkenness and all of these things that's just running rampant. I know some people, they get nervous when I start talking and saying those things, but facts are facts. Listen, I am beholden to no one but my family, my God, my church, my Bible, and my Constitution. I'm in no one's back pocket. And I'm going to tell you right now what we need in Baton Rouge, what we need in Jackson, what we need in Washington, D.C. are men and women of integrity, men and women who are honest, men and women who will stand and fight for what we believe in. This nation is on a fast track to hell, and if we don't stand up for it, we're going to lose her. That's why I push and I fight the way that I fight. And I know some of you will say, well, Dan, you're preaching to the choir. And I get that, but there's still a lot of new people that come on and that watch, whether on YouTube. And of course, we're still trying to build YouTube and it takes a long time. And we're still building Facebook and X and Instagram and all those areas. My point is we must continue to push back and fight for what we believe in. It's important. It's important. I like what our founding father, George Washington, said. He said, of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. Religion and morality are indispensable supports. George Washington said that many years ago. If you remove the compass, don't be shocked when the ship drifts into chaos. I'm going to say that again. That's a Dan Carr quote. If you remove the compass, don't be shocked when the ship drifts into chaos. Ladies and gentlemen, the ship has been drifting in chaos for a while, and the reason is because of the moral decay in this nation. You say, well, are you trying to act like you're perfect? By no means, no. Do I have faults and failures? Absolutely. That's why I get up in the morning and I try to pray and read my Bible and walk with God, and I still fail. I still have to battle in my own personal life. All I'm saying is we must continue to stand. If you fall and mess up, confess it and move on. Don't beat yourself up over it. I'm not saying to beat yourself up for it, and I'm not saying you can't do anything for our nation, our country, if you don't live a perfect life. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is if you do mess up and fall, confess it, get the help you need, and move on. Religion and morality are indispensable supports. George Washington. I like this. Listen to me very carefully. A culture without God cannot long remain free. Look at some of these other nations. Look at North Korea. Let's see how North Korea is doing. Look at China. Look at Iran and Iraq. And look at the nation of Israel. Let's see what's happening around the world whenever it comes to the moral decay, the nastiness, the filth, the garbage, whenever it comes to depression and oppression by the government, whenever it comes to people losing their freedoms. It's happening all over the world. And one of the main reasons I believe is because of the moral decay in those nations. We must stand. We must push back. We must, hey, I'm not talking about you and I are not going to be perfect. That's not what I'm saying. So please don't leave this episode thinking that I'm thinking that everybody has to be perfect if you're going to do anything for God or do anything for your nation, because I don't believe that. I fail miserably all the time. And I confess it and try to move on and try to get back how I'm supposed to be. All I'm saying is we must continue to push back against this moral decay. I'm talking about the moral decay of these dragon queens that are coming in and trying to teach and trying to read books to our children. I watched a video the other day of a leader in a church. It made me sick. She gets up and she's talking about how her and another leader in their church were bringing their 11-year-old sons to go watch drag queens because they wanted their sons to know that it's okay to do those kind of things. You talking about, if I went to that church, I'd leave that church. Let me go and stop right here and say, if you haven't already subscribed, please go and do so. I would leave that church in a New York second. You would never see me take a step back in that church ever again. And if I was a part of that denomination, I don't even know what denomination it was, but if I was a part of that denomination, I don't give a rip what denomination it was. I would leave it so fast, make your head spin. There's no way that I'm going to be part of a denomination that is telling anyone that it is okay to bring your 11-year-old son to go and watch a bunch of drag queens because they want them to understand that it's okay to do all those kind of things to your body as a man. Now listen, if a grown man wants to live that way, knock yourself out. Knock yourself out. But don't come and try to read to my 8-year-old, 9-year-old children and our little boys and girls. Don't come and try to do that. Anyway, we want to move on. Moral decay is destroying this nation. Listen, if you've drifted a little bit, come back. It's not over. There are some, you might watch this and you have great potential in the area of the church or great potential in the area of our nation. Listen, I have drifted at times and I have to come back. Drift, come back. It's important. It's important. I want to stop right here and say this. This is why it is so important that your vote counts. I talk about this in every single episode, and I will continue to do so. Your vote counts. I want you to understand that. I mean, there's many that want you to think that your vote doesn't count, but I want you to understand that your vote does count. 100%. Your vote counts. And don't let anybody tell you it doesn't. The next thing that I want to point out, number one, I talked about faith and morality, moral decay in this nation. We need to push back against that. The second thing is limited government is a biblical and American principle. Limited government. I understand that government is important. Let me just say that. Government is important. I will say that government has its role, just like the church. The church is important and the church has its role. The family is important and the family has its role. All three ordained by God. The family first, government second, and the church third. Now, I'm doing that in order how God did it in the Bible. You had the family, Adam and Eve, and then you had government with Moses and the nation of Israel, and then you had the church. They all are important, and they all have a very important role. One does not replace the other. One does not replace the other. They all have priority. Now, for me, this is how I've set up my priorities. Number one, my family. To me, my family is the most important priority. Not the church, not the government, my family. Number two, the church. My family, my church, number one and number two. And then number three, the government is a priority. In the home, there's priorities in the home. In the church, there are priorities in the church. One of the main priorities of my family with my wife and I is to raise our children in church and raise them so that whenever they get older, whether they choose to go to college, whether they choose to go to career school, regardless of what it is that they choose to do with their life, that they are well grounded and well ready to accomplish and to achieve whatever it is that they want to accomplish and achieve. If they want to be a lawyer, if they want to be a doctor, if they want to be an electrician, if they want to be a surgeon, if they want to be a preacher, if they want to be a missionary, whatever it is that they want to be, that they are ready, that they are well rounded and ready to accomplish whatever it is that they want to accomplish. That is in the home. And of course, my marriage. I want my marriage to be strong. My wife and I have a great marriage. We enjoy life probably a little too much. We love life. I love my wife. I enjoy going on dates with her and spending time with her. I wouldn't trade her for anything in the world. Now, she's about to turn 40 next year. And you know how some men say they will trade their wife in for two 20s. Well, no, then I've got to start the training all the way back over again. And of course, I'm picking. My wife is training me. My point is, I love my wife. I love my children. There's priorities there. And then in the church, one of the responsibilities of the church is edification, right? Edifying, building each other up, encouraging one another. There is rebuke. There is rebuke. Sometimes you have to rebuke. There is discipleship, where we are discipling those that have come to know the Lord as their personal Savior. And then there's evangelism, evangelizing the world, being that ambassador and trying to reach people and telling people the good news that Jesus died on the cross and that he rose again on the third day. That is important. And then you have government. Government, it seems, is trying to take over every area of life. Government is poking their nose in our family. Government is poking their nose in our church. And government is poking their nose in places that government shouldn't be poking their nose in. I had someone say to me, well, Dan, you don't need to be as politically active as you are. If you are, you need to lose your tax exempt status. Let me make something very clear, ladies and gentlemen. And before I do, I want to just mention this real quick, that if you haven't already subscribed, please go and do so. I pay taxes. I have every right to get from behind my pulpit and to endorse whoever I want to and to preach about whatever I want to preach. I have every right to get behind this mic and to talk about things freely and however I want to. That's my right. I do pay taxes. I pay taxes like everyone else. I pay Social Security. I pay taxes like everyone else. When I go get gas, I pay taxes. I pay property taxes. I pay taxes on my income. I pay taxes just like everyone else. And unfortunately, you have the government sticking their nose in everybody's business, and you and I, as citizens, we need to say to the government, enough's enough. You've already expanded way beyond the banks. We need no more government expansion. People want to talk about Medicaid expansion as they're expanding government in other areas. I don't want to expand government anywhere. I want a limited government. I am okay if the government, whenever it comes to our military now, I'm pro-military 100%, and I don't want to cut anything there. But I will say this. I would be okay if the government can barely pay the rest of the bills. Listen, I ran for office before. I got beat, but I've worked in government before. I worked for 6 months as a chief of staff for the Public Service Commission, and I don't work in government right now. I do help people get elected, people that I think are good, honest, with integrity, who want limited government. I do help those type of people run for office. One day I will run for office again. I do believe that one day I will be an elected official, and I can promise you this. You can come back and play me this tape again, that I am not going to vote to expand government. I'm not going to vote to raise your taxes. I'm not going to vote to raise your property taxes. I'm not going to vote to raise any taxes. We're going to vote to cut taxes. I don't want to cut a grocery tax here and then raise a gas tax over here. I mean, that's just taking money out of a different pot. My point is, we've got enough government. We need to push back against this government expansion. The government's role is to protect liberty, not manage every part of my life. I don't need a manager. Listen, I have my wife. I have 5 children. I have a church. They do enough managing. I don't need the government I don't need the government managing my life. Thomas Jefferson said this: the two enemies of the people are criminals and government. Hear what Thomas Jefferson said? The two enemies of the people are criminals and government. So let us tie the second down with the chains of the Constitution. I love it. He is saying this: when it comes to the government, let's tie the government down with the chains of the Constitution. The Constitution is the framework for us to keep the government in line. That's why they want to rewrite the Constitution. That's why you have people like Nancy Pelosi and Elizabeth Warren and others saying things like, the Constitution is outdated. We need to get rid of the Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, no, we just need to reread the Constitution. We need to obey the Constitution, plain and simple. When the government sees itself as God, the people suffer like slaves. That is a Dan Carr quote. When the government sees itself as God, the people suffer like slaves. Unfortunately, there are a lot of elected officials. They see themselves as God. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me. And you might not like this, but it'll be fine. They put their clothes on just like you. I'm thankful for the elected officials that see themselves as servants, as serving the people. I'm a pastor of the church. I'm a servant of the people. I am supposed to serve the people. You and I as Christians, one of the reasons for our liberty is to serve one another. If there's an elected official who sees himself as a God and he's not willing to be a servant, he or she needs to be voted out of office. If you try to text them or call them and they don't have time to return your phone call, some of these councilmen and aldermen and state senators and state reps, if they don't have time to return your phone call, if they don't, and you live in their district and they don't have time to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you, then vote them out. Run against them. Find somebody who will make time for the people. That is what they're there for. And if they don't have time to listen to the people, then find somebody to run against them. It's plain and simple. It's not anything complicated. They're not gods. They're people just like you and I. It's important that we see that. And I'm thankful for the ones that will respond and will have a cup of coffee. We have a lot of great men and women in Mississippi that are elected that will respond to you. And I would say most of them will. Probably 99% of them will. They'll respond to you. They'll answer a phone call. And I know they're busy, so I don't even like to bug them because I know how busy they are. I talked to a supervisor today, and I apologized to him almost when I'm getting off the phone because I know how busy he is, and I'm calling him about something, and I don't like bugging them. But when there's something that needs to be done, they need to be bugged. That's what they're there for. They're there for that. I'm not saying don't waste their time. Their time is valuable just like your time is. But at the same time, if they won't return that call, if they won't sit down and have a cup of coffee with you, if they won't do those things, if they won't listen to the people, then run against them and vote them out. Power grows where morality weakens and the people fall asleep. So you and I need to wake up. We don't need to be asleep. We need to wake up and pay attention. The next thing I want to mention briefly is free speech. I'm so thankful that we have free speech. I'm thankful for a constitution that gives us free speech. Christians must speak truth in a culture of lies. Listen, the drag queen culture is a culture of lies. The transgender culture is a culture of lies. Same-sex marriage is a culture of lies. And I know that people will say, well, that doesn't need to be, you don't need to worry about that kind of stuff. People are free. Listen, all because people are free to do that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be quiet about it. I'm going to speak out about it. I'm going to speak out about it. And it's on our party platform as Republicans. Plain and simple. This pro-choice culture is wicked. It's wicked. Christians must speak out in a culture of lies. Benjamin Franklin said this: whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must begin by subduing the freeness of speech. That is where it's going to start. It is going to start in these local governments where they're going to say, they're going to try to suppress your freedom of speech. They don't want to respond to emails. They don't want you to know what's happening or going on in City Hall. They act like they're the kings of the city. Vote them out. Replace them. Plain and simple. And if there's workers that are working like that in City Hall, and if the elected officials or the mayor won't get rid of them, then vote them out. It's plain and simple. It's plain and simple. It's not complicated. It's not hard. We want free speech in this country. We need to stand for free speech. It's important. We must speak out in a culture of lies. I'm going to read it again. Benjamin Franklin said, whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must begin by subduing the freeness of speech. Let me say this. In North Korea, it's dangerous to be right when the government is wrong. In Iran, let's talk about Israel. And Israel, listen, everybody's talking about we need to protect Israel. We need to send Israel this and send Israel that. And Israel's a free. I heard somebody the other day talking about how Israel had religious liberty. I'm thinking, won't you go over there and try to witness and talk about Jesus, and let's see how well it goes for you. I mean, the bottom line is, in a lot of these countries, it's not going to be very secure for you to speak out against government. Go speak out against the North Korea president. Go speak out against the Iranian president or Russia's president. Go speak out against them and see how it does for you. It's not going to be very free for you very long. And it can happen here in America if we're silent. If we let a bunch of Muslims start taking over in certain cities and certain areas, it's not going to. New York's going to learn very quick. New York's going to learn very quick. And I know this isn't very popular, but we don't need to be letting Muslims win some of these seats. I don't care if it's a council seat, alderman seat, supervisor seat. They don't need to win no seat. And I know many of them have already won seats. It's unbelievable how many Muslims are holding elected offices here in America. They're going to destroy the very foundation this country was built upon. You ever heard of Sharia law? You ever read the Quran? It's not a religion of peace. That religion wants to destroy you. It wants to cut the tongue off of liberty. It wants to cut the tongue out of free speech. We must stand and we must push back. And that brings me to the last thing is we must preserve freedom for the next generation. As I mentioned earlier, I have 5 children. 4 of them are now teenagers. 4 teenagers. It's hard to believe. Liberty can be lost from one generation to the next if we don't pass it on, if we don't fight for it, if we don't speak out, if we don't educate. It's important. Before I dive further into this, I want to say again, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe now. I would appreciate it. Thomas Jefferson said the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. The tree of liberty. We must water it. We must make sure it's fertilized. We need podcasts like this talking about liberty. We need Facebook groups talking about liberty. We need groups all over Mississippi and Louisiana and the United States of America talking about liberty. We need people on the front line talking about freedom and the importance of standing for truth. Mary Jo Perry is one of my friends here in Mississippi. She has a great coalition of conservative groups that are popping up all over Mississippi. She's up to like 7 or 8 now. They have several important meetings that are coming up soon. I would encourage you to find out, learn about it, get involved, get engaged. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We must fight for it. We must stand for it. And we must teach our children that they need to stand for it and they need to fight for it. I want to encourage you to pray. I want to encourage you to pray for our nation. I want to encourage you to be bold. Be bold. Speak out. That's why I get on here and talk about the things that I talk about. Yes, I know sometimes I say things that people might be like, that's a little too bold. We need people to be bold. We need you to be bold. Pray for our nation. Pray for boldness. Pray for wisdom. Pray for wisdom. Get involved in your community. Know what's happening. Know what's going on. You are born for such a time as this. I believe we live in the greatest time of history. We live in the greatest nation in the world, second to none, for such a time as this. Stand for life, stand for liberty, stand for the next generation. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I want to encourage you to do a couple of things. Number one, I want to encourage you to share this episode, whether on Facebook, X, whether on YouTube, share it. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe. Visit our domain, freedomfrontline1776.com. We have a lot of articles on there. I'll put the link in the comments. A lot of articles on there you can go read and check out. Invite others to go and check it out. Get involved in conservative groups. Get involved in what's happening in your city. Watch council meetings on YouTube if you can't make or can't attend. Watch the supervisor meetings if you can't attend. They're all on YouTube. Know what's happening in your state's capital and know what's happening in your nation's capital. Once again, I want to remind you, your vote counts. Get involved, get engaged, and help people get to the polls. That's very important. Once again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching here, Freedom Frontline. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. God bless you. And may God continue to bless the great United States of America.